and welcome into this video. I would like to take this opportunity to answer some queries which I have been receiving from a lot of consultants and also from a lot of freelancers who technically earn some passive income or full-time income, which in some cases is subject to withholding tax, but other is not subject to withholding tax, but they want to become tax compliant since KRA has a way which they monitor their income and they need to file their return, which they technically file their return as sole proprietors usually do by declaring their annual tax return. But now it has been technically hectic to file their return for 2025 since the Revenue Authority is requiring them that immediately they declare their gross turnover, they are supposed to adjust it using ITIM's compliant expenses or expenses which has been validated via ITIMs. So I agree that KRA made a mistake last year. They didn't sensitize people on what was required, and a lot of taxpayers even do not understand what is the requirement of an ITIM compliant receipt. So I have experienced that issue where people are trying to give you some receipts which are not ITIMs compliant. So when you get into any supplier and he's giving you a receipt and they tell you that that receipt is ITIM compliant, just check this. An ITIM compliant invoice must have these things. So I will not say the number of things, but I will touch the main thing. So an ITIM's compliant receipt, just confirm this first because it's the most important. It must contain the KRA PIN of the supplier. So maybe you went to the supermarket to buy a certain thing. You notice that the receipt which you are given in supermarket, they have a KRA PIN number of that supermarket. The second thing, the receipt must contain the name of the supplier, the accurate name of the supplier. The third thing, that receipt must contain the date of that receipt of that invoice. The third thing, that receipt must contain the price, the unit price, the quantity, and the total amount which you paid, which is Q multiplied by P. From there, that receipt must contain the invoice description describing the type of commodity or service which you have purchased. The fourth thing, which is required and some business do not comply, it must have a QR code which you can scan and see if that receipt is fiscalized or validated via ITIMs. Let us move from there. So in case you have the receipt, and even we take a scenario where you are not invoiced that receipt, but you are given that receipt, but it was not monitored in your KRA rating since you are not asked by your team by the supplier, you can be able to do the manual upload of that receipt or in the Excel sheet which we download from the KRA portal through the manual upload of non-ITIM/TIMS invoices. Just know that. But I know for consultant, this is not so easy since our work technically is offering services, which is a non-stock item. And when it comes to monitoring of non-stock item expense, as how monitoring the income of these consulting work is very difficult. Also getting the expense is very difficult. So more so, bearing in mind that Kenya is technically an informal developing economy and a lot of business usually happen informally. So I would like to take a scenario of a consultant who do not have a car. So they don't go to the gas station to fill their car. So what do? They use public transport. So imagine that public transport telling the conductor or the tout, you want him or her to invoice you. That will be fight between you and the conductor or the tout. So it's close to impossible to monitor some expenses, which I know that, and the Revenue Authority must be conversant with that since it's not easy to capture some of expenses, and it is putting consultant into the wall since they cannot be able to capture some of the expenses which they incur when doing their business. So some of the consultants, they will go and eat in the normal informal eating place which we call kibada. So you not go and tell the Mama Kibada, we assume he doesn't have the literacy knowledge to invoice you to pay the food. It's better you live without eating since she cannot agree. More so, even the literate people who are conversant with the tax law, like our adrods, maybe I was taking a scenario of an IT consultant who works from home, who treats his house as both an office and also where he resides. He was telling your landlord to invoice you, or telling your landlord to give you his tin or her tin is quite impossible, since we are hiding from each other. So these landlords do not want to be exposed to the KRA. They received an income which they will be required also to put it in the KRA, and also when they are filing their return, they can either do it as MRI, or if they are the gross turnover from the rental property is above the sale threshold of 15 M per the annual, or 15 M annually, they'll be requiring some expenses to net off that rental income. But let us get back here where we have a consultant. So as a consultant, it will be your work to ensure you get as many receipts where you can be able to monitor a receipt. Maybe when you eat in these hotels, you get a ETIM's fiscalized receipt or an ETIM validated receipt to help you offset the gross turnover which you are making, so that you don't get yourself in the confusion which you got this year. Second thing which I would like also to touch is high time we start registering companies, our consulting work as companies. The reason why I'm saying this is because when you register your consulting business as a company, even these will touch the sole proprietors, you'll be able to deduct a lot of expenses, since a lot of personal expenses which you incur, they are tax disallowable. You are disallowed from adjusting them from the gross turnover. But immediately you register your consulting business as a company, you'll be able to be taking advantage of a lot of expenses which you can be able to be netting off against your gross turnover. So this is more prevalent. You can notice in US and more so in Australia, or more so in the developed world, a lot of people usually register small companies, and that is the reason. And also, you ensure you have clean tax record in your personal level. More so, this comes when you are doing large transactions like buying car and buying land. So ensure that you are clean. Your tax record is clean in personal level. But when you separate yourself from the company, which is a legal entity by itself, the liability of the company will not be affecting your personal TIN or your personal liability. So that will be saving you. Even if you have this complexity in filing tax, it will be saving your personal tax records. More so, I know you'll be in some scenario you want to import a car and you get yourself in a lot of troubles with KRA. So when this tax complexity getting harder and harder, it's more time we start registering our business as a separate entity to separate ourselves from the liability of the business. I'm not saying you become careless and you refuse to maintain your company records, but what I'm trying to say, when you have registered your business as a company, you'll be taking advantage of a lot of expenses which are allowable for the company. When you buy an asset which is part and parcel of your business, rather than registering it as your personal item, register it as a company item or asset, so that you can be able to net off some expenses. When you take a loan in relation to your company, you'll be able to be expensing the interest which you are paying against that loan. So that is the high time we start registering our businesses as companies. It's very cheap. Is technically 10,600 and something. You separate yourself from the business which you are doing, and you ensure your tax record are clean, because harder times also call for harder decisions which we must make as Kenyans, because this year, I know it has not been a walk in the path, and a lot of people get themselves with a lot of penalties and interest which will be accruing, and I feel pity for that in your personal teams. So that would be my advice, a free advice. So in case you want to get us, you can get us using the contact in the description, and you can have conversation regarding this case. So basically, thank you for watching. You can put any query in the comment section, and technically you'll be able to answer the number of the comment which I managed to do them. So thank you for watching, and have a nice day ahead.